Well, well, well. So, we have reached a week where I'm happy to say that the topics that we're talking about, none of them are overly depressing. Even the depressing one is not overly depressing because there's a level of hilarity to it and just a level of Schadenfreude. And man, I love Schadenfreude. But this week on the grind, we are going to be discussing the new Obsidian game Avowed and how it's getting trashed by gamers and its low sales. We're going to be discussing the. You know what? This is one thing about the beginning of these. I really need to stop taking a nap before we do an episode because I forget what the topics are, even though I just set them up like an hour ago. Oh goodness. So apologies to everybody out there, but we'll be discussing that. We'll be discussing the possibility of people getting assassinated over a ramen shop review. Like this is going to be a wild, fun week, folks. And of course, we'll be talking about the possibility of an Elden Ring movie. But the one thing I'm looking forward to the most is Serena got some culture, and we're going to be discussing that as our first topic this week.
Hey, I got culture.
Exactly. But we're gonna unbabby you yet. We're gonna get you caught up.
Baby.
So, for those out there, I apologize for the brain fart, but we're gonna go ahead and get it rolling. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome back to another episode of On the Grind. All right. So, for those who
So,
are out in listening land, I want to set this up real quick. The I told Serena after the last episode, I said it's time for you to get cultured again, and I gave her a choice: two different flavors of the devil. There is, of course, possibly the greatest horror film ever made, in The Exorcist, or one of the most recent best horror films ever made, with a kind of a similar subgenre of horror in Hereditary. And Serena picked Hereditary. So, Serena, tell us what you thought.
okay, let's start with a very quick summary. Hereditary is a horror film about a grieving family, having to deal with supernatural sinister occurrences after the death of their grandmother and eventually the death of the family's youngest child. The story follows Annie. She's played by Toni Collette, who you all should know from the United States of Terror, which is one of my favorites during in my childhood, even though I was too young to watch it. Toni Collette is probably one of the most underrated actors currently, because holy fuck, her performance in this was mwah. You really feel bad for this woman. So the character she plays is a miniature artist named Annie Graham, who lives with her husband Steve and her two children, Peter and her daughter, no, her son Peter and her daughter Charlie. The family gets attends the funeral of Annie's mother, whom she had a estranged relationship with. So the family is kind of going through the motions of the whole grieving process. One day, Annie's son, her oldest son, Peter, decides to go to to a party with his friends, but Annie wants him to take his sister Charlie with him. Now Charlie is this very weird little girl who has a very odd look. She looks like she has Downs. And you think that she might have like a developmental disorder of some sort. At least that's the impression I got. So Peter takes Charlie to the party, kind of leaves her to go smoke weed with a girl he likes from his class. Unbeknownst to Peter, his sister ingests a piece of cake with nuts in it. Charlie has an a allergic reaction to the cake and basically tells her brother that she cannot breathe. Peter rushes to the hospital, but during their on their way to the hospital, and Charlie opens the window in the car and unfortunately decapitates herself.
Oh no.
Peter, yeah, Peter, in shock at what just happened, decides to head home and go straight to bed, only for his mother to find the decapitated body of her now dead daughter. And holy shit, is this a heartbreaking scene? You see, there's a quick shot of not Annie, Charlie's decapitated head on the ground rotting, and then there's a shot of Toni Collette's character Annie having a mental breakdown. It just makes you want to rush to hug this woman because she's inconsolable. Like the father, her husband, Annie's husband, like he can barely like keep this woman apart. I fucking hated Peter in this moment because what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why would possess you to just leave the car with your sister's body for someone in the house to find? Like, what was I understand he's traumatized, but think how that would have an effect on the people around you, especially your fucking mother, seeing that.
Yeah, but people that are traumatized don't think.
Yeah, that's true.
It certainly feels like it. Because, well, when you get into that one point where you're just looking at something fucking awful and you're just trying to get from point A to point B, and you're not sure how to get all the middle steps between here and there dealt with. You're just trying to get to point B as quickly as you possibly can. It's
It was insanely messed up for that to even happen, for the mother to find that out right after, like not too long ago, she lost her own mother. So to lose a child shortly after losing another family member is beyond traumatizing. So to continue, they have the funeral for Charlie. Annie basically becomes completely resentful and estranged from her own son to the point where she openly admits that she never wanted to have him to begin with. Or at least this is like a dream sequence, I believe. Yeah, this is a dream sequence where she basically admits that she resents being his mother
mm,
and that she tried to have a miscarriage. And then there's a huge fight during the dinner table
Oh, the
where
dinner
she just
scene is
lays,
it's so good.
where she just basically lays into him. You can tell this woman has issues, especially when it comes to the concept of parenting, because she didn't have a good relationship with her own mother. And that comes into play later on. So later on, Annie goes back to the support group, that the grieving support group, who, by the way, comes into play at the end of the movie. You learned there's something sinister behind these groups, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Annie goes to the support group, or at least attempts to again, after being away from them for months. A woman by the name of Joan kind of approaches her, basically telling her that I understand where you're coming from. I lost my son and my grandson. Maybe we can keep in contact with each other. So Annie keeps in contact with this woman. A bunch of stuff happens, and Joan basically during a shopping trip, Annie sees Joan, or no, Joan sees Annie and approaches her and tells her about attending an event with a medium. So Annie, like anybody else, initially doesn't believe it, just thinks it's bullshit. But Joan insists that it was real because a bunch of scientists and doctors kind of left left the event with their foundation in science shaken. So Joan decides to invite Annie to a seance session. During the session, Joan tries to contact the spirit of her dead grandson. I believe his name is Louis or Louis. And it starts to freak Annie out. So Annie leaves, or quickly tries to leave, not before Joan gives her uh, incantation and instructions on how to summon the spirit of her daughter. Annie takes Joan advice and eventually does do so because the grief of losing her daughter is starting to get to her. She tries to conduct a seance with her son, and her husband, and it doesn't go too well. It freaks Peter out and traumatizes him uh, even more. And the husband basically thinks that Annie is starting to lose her fucking mind. He's freaked out too. So over the course of a couple days, there starts to be like supernatural occurrences in the house. Charlie thinks that this might be Annie, but the film seems to hint that this might be something else. Fast forward a bit, and we see not Charlie, what the hell am I saying, Charlie? Annie. Annie goes through her mother's things and finds an old book, a photo album containing her mother being referred to as Queen Lee, as the leader, or at least a part of a satanic cult, which one of the members, Joan, the person who befriended Annie and showed her how to do the seance, is a part of. And they're all a part of this cult trying to bring back, or at least they all worship the one of the demons of the Goetia, Paimon, who is the demon of wealth, who requires a male host in order to function. Those who summon him are granted immense wealth and fortune, which okay, I'm trying to. Sorry, I'm like taking pause. I'm trying to recall the events. So Annie eventually finds her mother's rotten headless corpse, and
Nice.
the symbol, yeah, and the symbol of Paimon. Now, the symbol of Paimon was seen at the beginning of the movie on the grandmother's necklace. There's a shot of it, so it does confirm that the grandmother did something, or at least had a hand in these supernatural occurrences.
Hinting at the
And,
title of the movie.
yeah. So Annie tries to like. She thinks it's Charlie initially. She thinks that Charlie is like becoming a vengeful spirit, and he tries to get rid of the book, a Charlie sketchbook that she used to contact her. But when she tried to get rid of it, her clothes came her clothes came on fire, and the fire only dissipated from her when she removed the book and put the fire out. So there's a connection, a spiritual connection between the notebook, the sketchbook, and Annie herself. She can't get rid of it so easily, or she could potentially die. Fast forward a bit, and Peter starts to have a bunch of strange occurrences. Like he starts to get possessed to the point that he's self-harming, and the father basically is at his limit because he doesn't know what the fuck is going on with his son, and he thinks his wife has basically gone mad. And he tries to basically get him to get rid of the book, get him to throw the sketchbook into the fire. But when he refuses and basically tells us, honey, you're sick. You've gone nuts. She takes the sketchbook from him and throws it into a fire, and he catches on fire. Which I don't think they ever explained why that happened. I thought the sketchbook was spiritually connected to Annie. Then Annie gets possessed by Paimon.
Pause real quick. Whenever it comes to when you're dealing with demons, generally speaking, the reason is because fuck you, that's why.
Yeah, true.
whatever causes the most pain in that moment is what they will try to do.
They feed off of it.
Pain, fear,
Yeah.
suffering.
Yeah, so Annie basically becomes possessed by Paimon. Now Peter, who basically was driven home by his father after breaking his nose on his desk, wakes up to see his father's charred corpse and his mother, now possessed, trying to kill him. He basically flees to the attic and sees activity happen in the treehouse. Now, a thing that really weirded me out was the fact that he did see earlier in the film, after Charlie's death, activity happening in her treehouse, and he told no one about it. It never occurred to him to tell his mother, "Hey, mom, there's something's going on with Charlie's treehouse. You might want to check it out." Which, again, is a bit of a plot hole for me because I understand he's going through some stuff, but I'm pretty sure anybody would be concerned if there was activity or you're seeing a bunch of people entering your dead sister's treehouse. That's just me. So, in order to try and escape from his mother, he basically jumps out the window and tries to enter the treehouse. He sees the floating body of his mother trying to decapitate herself
With a piano wire. So it's
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah, the fact that she's just looking at him as she's doing it was just, ooh, that made my skin crawl. He jumps out the treehouse. I don't think he's dead. I think he's unconscious.
Well, he doesn't jump out of the treehouse. He jumps out of the house from like
Oh
the
yeah, he
second
jumps out of
story.
the house. Yeah, I don't think he's dead. I think he's just critically injured. So this what is assumed to be the spirit of Paimon possesses him. He enters the treehouse. He looks at a idol with his sister's decapitated head with a crown on it. And we see a bunch of first of all, let me go back. We saw during the when he first discovers his father's body, there's a bunch of naked people looking at him. And then near the end of the movie, there's a bunch of naked people who are the cultists, who, by the way, are the support group, the grieving support group members, who turn out to be a part of Annie's mother's cult. And Joan comes in with the crown, declaring Peter, or proclaiming that Charlie is Paimon, and declaring that Peter, or that I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember. Basically saying that Payman's female host, his female body, has been corrected, and declaring Peter the new host, or at least King Paimon himself. So this is where I get a little bit confused. Charlie was okay, so I understand that Charlie was the host of Paimon, but she was an imperfect host. So my question is, did Charlie, the little girl, did she ever exist? Or was it just Paimon from the time she was born until now?
It's really hard to say. I think it's meant to be up for interpretation the more I think about it. Because
I thought that the reason why Charlie was so off was because of Payman's creeping influence, but he couldn't fully possess her because she was female. He can only function correctly with a male host.
Kind of sounds like Cab to Beach.
yeah. But, I try not to overthink about it because I feel like the more I think about it, the more I take away from the magic of the film. Because I feel like we're kind of underselling.
It was just something I was thinking about.
No, I get you. I feel like in some ways, just describing the events of the film kind of undersells it. Because a lot of the way the Hereditary works as a movie isn't necessarily just the plot. The plot's amazing. But how it's executed, like the cinematography in this film is absolutely fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I forget the name of the guy who
Especially
directed
when
this.
they have Ari, his name is Ari Aster.
That's right, yeah. I get him and the guy who directed The Witch confused, Robert Eggers, because they're both they both kind of came up around the same time in like the mid 2010s, because that was when The Witch came out, and like this and The Witch were kind of considered like two of the best like independent horror films
They
of that
both have
time
this very
period.
grimy and realistic. They both have this very grimy and realistic feel. Like it's not like with Midsummer where everything is like much lighter in appearance but darker in terms of theme and storytelling. Everything is just there's this overall bleak feeling to it
Yeah,
throughout the film.
I kind of feel like both Robert Eggers and Ari both have this great like, how do I put this? Their approach to horror is so much more grounded and so much more um psychological in a lot of ways than what horror had kind of become in regards to being very schlocky and um kind of silly.
Jump, yeah, very jump scare heavy.
Yeah, it's kind of like where people kind of like learned all the wrong lessons from Evil Dead. But the one thing that I absolutely love about this film is the this is one of the best examples of slow burn horror. Like if you just told somebody at the start that, hey, we're gonna sit down and watch this movie called Hereditary, you would think at first it's just a family drama.
Certainly acts like one.
Yeah, it kind of started out like this. I'm like, where's the supernatural shit?
Yep,
Where's
and
the
then it
cults and stuff?
and then you get to the halfway point and it just takes a turn for the Satan, and it's great. Like if you can't tell by if you can't hear the smile that I'm wearing right now, I fucking love this movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I'm not of the opinion that it's as good as The Exorcist, but goddamn, it's close. It's very close. It's one of the I would say right behind this, The Exorcist 1 and The Exorcist 3, Hereditary is like the one of the best possession films that has ever existed.
Ugh, terrible.
I love it.
Yeah, I haven't really seen The Exorcist, so I don't have a point of comparison. But I did like the general cinematography of it and the overall plot, especially how they tied the familial aspect to the supernatural aspect.
what did you think about the conclusion? The final scenes of the film, like all the way from when the kid wakes up in bed to the treehouse at the very end. What did you think of that sequence?
I love that sequence, especially when he discovers, especially the scene where you see his mother's decapitated body going up into the treehouse. That was such an eerie sight. It's kind of silly, but in the context of it, it's fucking eerie when you see that she's literally chopping off her own head with the piano wire in front of him.
Yeah, yeah, and the great thing about it is, did you notice that after he hits the ground, there's no music.
Yeah,
There's barely any sound whatsoever. All you like when you see the decapitated body floating, it's so far away from you that you're second guessing what's going on. And then the only sound you hear is him clicking his tongue.
yeah, I thought that was Charlie's mannerisms because they keep again they don't make the clear distinction between Paimon and Charlie. So I was a bit confused on if he was being possessed by his sister until the reveal that it's actually Paimon who is doing that, who's been doing this the entire time.
Yeah, it's so good. The I will freely admit, like, the scene, the chase, and everything leading up to the chase too. I watched that on on my TV, which the big 4K one. I watched it at like 1 in the morning. So that part of the film plays with lighting really well. And especially if you're watching it, like if you saw it in the theaters or if you're watching it on a very dark monitor, you're going to be second guessing what you're seeing. And
Yeah, I especially love the part where he's in I think the living room, and you see the naked people staring at him along with his possessed mother just staring at him. I legit thought they were going to do like what typical horror movies do and just have, as soon as he turns around, she'll just leap at the screen at you.
yeah, but instead the shot that they do is it's pulled back. And honestly, it was the smartest thing that they could have done because um when she takes off after him, it is so much more frightening than if she had jump scared you. Because she comes out of the side of the frame and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Where the fuck? She was there the whole time?" You know? It made the whole thing so much less predictable.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I love it. I
I'm
love
so
good horror.
yeah, I'm so used to like the standard horror movie schlock that I kind of forget, or I kind of like miss out on these hidden gems.
Yeah. Now we need to get you to watch some Robert Eggers stuff. I just saw Nosferatu a couple of days ago, and it was tremendous.
Robert Eggers, what else did he do?
Robert Eggers did The Witch and The Northman.
Oh,
Consistent quality from that director.
Oh hell yeah. Um, but yeah, Nosferatu was pretty great. Um, but yeah, back on Hereditary, I really feel like honestly, like this was a movie like when I saw it, it kind of changed my perception of how to approach horror, and but in a very good way. You know, The Exorcist. I really like horror films that they kind of go, hey, we're gonna class up the joint. You know, like we're gonna approach this a little bit differently, and we're not gonna be silly about it. We are legitimately trying to horrify you. We're legitimately trying to make you as uncomfortable as humanly possible. And like, we're not gonna make this silly or goofy or anything like that. We're gonna make this whole thing just make you want to crawl out of your fucking skin. You know, it's just so wonderfully done. I think you honestly need to see The Exorcist next. You need to see what inspired this film, because The Exorcist is not just one of the greatest horror films of all time, it's one of the greatest films ever made.
God. Clearly, we got to make her watch Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh
no,
God. I don't know if I want to dunk that on her.
no.
Come on, he got brought in front of the court in order to prove that he didn't actually kill his actors and actresses.
Yeah,
No.
that movie is wild, but kind of for all the wrong reasons.
To be fair, he brought it on himself by like making them like not talk about their roles afterwards.
Yeah, he went a
So
little too pro wrestling with it.
yeah, so bro got everything he wanted, and everything he deserved.
But yeah, so to conclude this section, Serena, would you recommend Hereditary for those out there in listening land?
Yes, I highly recommend her. I tell you, if you are a horror head and you want some good horror.
So yeah, especially I recommend this folks out there, just to kind of throw my own note on it, is I recommend this movie to anybody that honestly doesn't like horror. Because the modern perception of what horror is so different than what this film will provide you with. Because this is horror in the same way that The Silence of the Lambs is a horror. It's really a tense drama film that just happens to be god-fuckingly horrifying. And it just
the
functions
family
so
drama
well as
aspect
that.
is rooted in realism. Like, if
It's
you just take the whole, like, Satan worship, demon worship out, it could be a good drama film, a good family drama film.
funnily enough, though, I have actually not watched Midsummer from this director, so at some point I'm gonna have to do that.
Same.
I've heard many things about it. Sadly, not all of them positive. But yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our topics of the week to get us started. So, Avowed has finally come out. Last we talked about this, we talked about the art director potentially having discriminated against white people, which is kind of a fucked up thing to say. And now the game is out, people have started playing it. It is on Games Pass. And I want to kind of brace those of you out there who love your Schadenfreude for a moment. And I'm going to curb your enthusiasm. Because this was on Games Pass, I don't know how, like, the exact numbers of people that are subscribed to Games Pass. But they kind of marketed this as the next Games Pass, like, big game. This is the next Games Pass game. It's a AAA game that's coming out. It's Microsoft approved, quote unquote, sort of, I guess. And you can play it for free on day one, blah blah blah. So Microsoft, they own Obsidian, and there is the distinct possibility that they may have paid Obsidian an obscene amount of money to where the sales on this might not mean anything because they already got the bag. And it might be one of those things where they might be able to just write off as, oh, well, this just didn't work out. So, but we'll give you another shot in the future because they're still doing the sequel to Outer Worlds. So, just to preface that, because some people are like, oh, Obsidian's cooked, they're gonna get shut down, da 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 da. It's like, that's probably not gonna happen. But it goes without saying that there has been a significant backlash against this game. Very significant. And a lot of it comes from the fact that it kind of marketed itself as a return to older first-person RPGs like Oblivion. So, people took them up on that challenge and found out that the world you can interact with in Avowed is pretty much dead.
Unless it's already pre-programmed, you're not interacting with it. So the video I seen involved comparing Avowed and Oblivion. So if you jump off a cliff in Avowed into water, nothing much happens when you hit the water. But in Oblivion, if you hit the water, you go underneath, you get hurt a bit, and then you can do stuff. So if you cast magic, fire magic in Avowed, at literally anybody that isn't an enemy, nothing happens. You cast fire at the ground, nothing happens. No burn marks, nothing. You do that in Oblivion, well, everyone's suddenly getting up in arms, everyone's trying to kill your ass because you're trying to burn people alive. they attack the ground. There's burn marks, and then it's just like it just looks like they haven't tried at all. They've just not tried or added anything that you can like fiddle with in Avowed, and it's kind of a. This one Steam review I read says that it's good for a $20 game, but for a $70 game, no, it's. I'll be quite frank. They're kind of they couldn't pull off what people like devs did in when Oblivion came out, let alone fucking Dark Ages of Might and Magic.
Yeah.
Or goodness, just trying to think back then because there were so many good games too.
Yeah, like Dark Messiah, as a game, you could do so much cool stuff with magic. Like the fact that you could, it actually encouraged you to outthink your opponents.
Mm-hmm. This
Whereas
one clip I've seen in Heroes of Might and Magic. I've seen this one clip of the one level where all the cliff areas were, and Bro was using ice magic to create like slipping slides while he run across the cliff areas. So the NPCs would chase him and slip and slide right off the cliff, and he just kicked them off. It has a fantastic amount of like interactivity for that era.
If people have actually compared Dark Messiah of Might and Magic to Home Alone in a positive way because of that, you are basically Kevin McAllister with a magic stick.
Cool.
Oh,
God damn it, woman! I swear to God!
You gotta be kidding me! You don't know Home Alone?
Oh, Home Alone, yeah, sorry.
Okay, all right.
I was like, oh my God! How?
I never actually fully seen the movie. I just know
oh no! It's such a baby!
It's fine. It's fine. She's just a little baby.
I'm a wee little baby. Do not yell at me.
I'm not laughing. I'm not yelling. I'm laughing. Like, oh, I'm so
Don't worry,
shocked.
I'll yell at her. God damn it, Rena. I swear to fucking God. Get born 10 years earlier. I swear to fucking Christ.
Yeah.
I will say at some point, yes, we're gonna have to add Home Alone to the culture Serena list. In fact, I need to actually make it an actual list. You will really like it. It is legitimately a very funny movie.
It is timeless, outside of the fact that it leaves you kind of questioning how Kevin's dad makes money.
Yeah, that is true. But anyway, back to Avowed. There's actually a series of videos that have come out from a user. Let me look him up real quick. What is his name? So I want to send people to him. Tarak JK, spelled TERAKJK, where he compares Avowed to Oblivion, Skyrim, and then Outer Worlds, which was Obsidian's last game, in regards to attention to detail. And the difference is staggering. Because even Oblivion came out, for those who don't know, Oblivion. And by the way, if you've never played Oblivion, I actually do recommend playing through it at least once in your life, just to kind of see that at the time, Bethesda was doing some unique stuff in regards to like an interactive world. And there's a reason that the game was huge. We'll put it that way. But anyway, so with Oblivion, they or they compare it, and it's like the fact that you could take a dagger and start whacking things on a table, and the thing and items just fly off of it. You can't do that in Avowed. Like the NPCs, like if you attack a guard in Avowed, they just stand there because you didn't hurt them, because they're actually the guard is not an actual character. The guard is just a static object that just happens to look at you.
The whole thing of I've seen in Avowed is just like regression. That's the only way to describe it. It's regression to like even the like before Oblivion. Like I can't think of a game where you couldn't like cause even a little bit of chaos by just attacking a random person. Oh goodness.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. Like most like some people have tried to say things to the tune of like, we're living in a post Baldur's Gate 3 world. And I don't want to say that, because it's like those videos have kind of shown we're living in a post Oblivion world, and we've been living in a post Oblivion world for 20 fucking years. Because Oblivion came out in 2006. And we're at a point where if you're going to do this genre of game and you don't detail your environments and you don't add NPCs that you can physically interact with, I mean, heck, you could even argue like we're in a post-Morrowind world. In fact, I think you could attack and kill NPCs as far back as Daggerfall. You could do that in the Fallout games. You could just attack random people if you wanted to. There is a perk in Fallout 2 called Child Killer.
Jesus.
Yeah, it gets hardcore, but it has been a thing in RPGs for a long time that you can attack and you can interact with all elements of the world, and then suddenly to just take that out is inexcusable.
God, all the way down to Calibeth. That's Ultima. Ultima, like
Calibeth?
All the way back to
Calibeth.
Lord fucking British.
Oh.
Okay, so it was a series of text games in which you were playing a hero that was summoned to another world to help Lord British deal with his bullshit. And you are straight up. It's extraordinarily open-ended. Extraordinarily open-ended. You gather up party members and you go fight off the evil bad guy at the end, but there's no guarantee of safety, and it is extraordinarily primitive looking. Your eyeballs will go blind from like looking at all the sparky bits. All right, look at that. It's ridiculous. But yeah, no, like it's so fucking weird. It's so fucking weird seeing a game where you can't interact with anything outside of like very, very small interactions. Like you can only kill enemies, you can only do this, you can only like use magic on this and that and the other. It's awful. I don't know what's happening other than the fact that maybe they should like rethink all their fucking policies of like firing their talent after every goddamn successful video game.
Yeah, the way that I've seen this is like I'm honestly astonished by it. The
Right?
Oh, you're gonna have to explain that, Mike. You got Serena confused.
What? Oh, that thing? What I showed you right there?
No, them firing people after every game.
Why
Okay,
are you trying
so
the people in movies?
okay, so the reason why they do that is because they're cheap. All right, I'm entirely serious. Ever since if you get a bunch of stockholders, and the easiest way to improve the profits for any given quarter is to essentially take all your costs and reduce them to zero by firing all your fucking developers that just got you a big ass profit
That's
because
retarded.
expenditures look bad on the bottom line. And fucking stock and the people that own stocks are fucking short-sighted. All they want to see is line go up. So the easiest way to see line go up is to reduce your expenditures while increasing your income. And people that in the devs that are making your games are basically going to go run fallow if they until the next big thing that they can get the fucking idea engine going, and they just fire them into the interim so they don't have to like pay them like for not working on video games, you know? Or they move them to other studios, or they shuffle them around, and it's a pain in the fucking ass. It is an absolute pain in the ass. And EA was one of the worst for this. And then they would acquire a new studio. The new studio starts going to hell because they start getting rushed through crunch, and then they don't make the games like they used to, and then the investors get all uppity, and then they shut down the studio. It's an unfortunate and persistent effect of the video game industry that they keep fucking doing this, and I hate it. Terrible.
Yeah, the back on just kind of like the major problems with Avowed though is the fact that, like, again, that the world is as dead as it is. Like the only thing that I've been seeing like fairly consistent praise from is that the combat is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But the thing about it is that RPGs, it's very rare that all you do is combat, or where it's the vast majority of what you do. Like Diablo is an example of one where most of what you do is fight. You know, the actual like role playing element is really minimalized, and this is not Diablo, and it's not trying to be Diablo. It's supposed to be trying to be an RPG. You have a party in it, the whole 9 yards. It's basically supposed to be Pillars of Eternity, which is where the universe that this game is set in, but with fucking, you know, it's a first person game instead of like a traditional CRPG.
And it's kind of a piss poor example of what's happening with the modern game industry, in that each section is way too sequestered from each other. So you have your back ends dudes and your front ends dudes and your arts dudes, but each of those arts dudes are doing like each specific type of art. So you have your graphics designers and your 3D designers and the specific types of spline designers, and everyone is too sequestered, and the left hand can't see what the right hand is doing, and the left hand the right hand can't see that the left hand is like 8 or 9 different fingers, and the right hand looks like a normal ass hand, but it's not. This metaphor is getting out of control. The point is, it's an absurd result of everything being like unrelated, unsequestered. This whole like sprint era of programming. God, now I got to explain something. So sprint is a process in which the like managers try to control their engineers a little bit better by basically giving them a topic to build on, and then making them go through the sprint. Then they examine what the engineers did. They either put it back into the topic again, or they move on to the next like bullet, and then it keeps going on and on. And it was supposed to. This whole thing was supposed to like reduce the amount of middle managership, but all it does is it just creates more middle managers. So ultimately, the problem I think with modern gaming is that there's way too many fucking middle managers. and not enough people like communicating with each other to be like, okay, so I have this cool idea. How do we implement this? Okay, so we have all these cool ideas. Because I swear to God, like all the best games were basically done with a bunch of dudes, all just like saying, okay, wouldn't this be cool if? Wouldn't this be cool if? I just wish we could go back to that.
Yeah, the somebody has been, because the game that came out recently that's basically Avowed's direct competition is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And a lot of people have been looking at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and basically saying Daniel Vavra made this in a cave with a bunch of scraps.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because like all the shit you can't do in Avowed you can do in Kingdom Come. And it feels like a very living world because of it. I've been playing through FF7 Rebirth, and Rebirth, like JRPGs are not known really for having like living, feeling worlds. To be honest, like interactivity with NPCs is always very minimal. But at the very least, in Rebirth, like you go into a town and like people will like talk shit to you. You can hear conversations going on in the background. So on and so forth. Like it feels alive. Like I've watched videos of people walking through Avowed's world, and it just feels very. It's just dead. And the thing that I would say is like the big problem with Obsidian is it goes to the whole Ship of Theseus thing. A lot of the people that made Obsidian what it was have long since left. And have gone on to do their own thing. And what basically what you got left is none of the talented people. None of the people with vision were left behind. And as such, bleh. Yeah, that's what we get. One thing of
managers all over the place.
Yeah. One thing of note is that, you know, with comparing this to Skyrim, there are apparently more people right now playing this, at least on Steam, playing Skyrim than Avowed. That's wild to think of.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have tried to say that, like, they might be able to No Man's Sky this. No, you can't.
Oh.
You have to go into... You'd have to go into the town, or every town you go into, and every NPC, take them from being basically a cardboard cutout to being an actual interactable physical object with a character sheet and code that reflects that. But there's no way they're going to do that because it would take them another 2 years plus to get that done. It's never going to happen. So Avowed, sucking it up. It's pretty much done for. Let's go ahead and move on because we've kind of been on that topic a while. The next topic, apparently, at least according to George R.R. Martin, who wrote the lore for this game, Elden Ring is being optioned for a film.
I am cautiously hype, only cautiously. Mostly knowing like development cycles and whatnot. But it depends by who's being optioned by.
Yeah. Because here's my thing about... I'm a big fan of the Souls genre. Well, actually, you know what? I feel like that's unfair of me to say. I really like Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. And not even 2 as much. 1 and 3 are amazing, though. Elden Ring is pretty good. I'm not as over the moon about Elden Ring as I am Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3, to me, is like one of the best action RPGs to ever be created. It's just fucking godlike. But Elden Ring is, oddly enough, one of those games where it's like these guys, you know, went into a cave with a box of scraps and came out with this. I've played through so many Souls-likes at this point, and especially from FromSoft, to where FromSoft has a very specific way of telling a story, and I don't really feel like it lends itself very well to film.
No, yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, no.
Because there's not
a lot
really
of their
dialogue.
Not really. There's certain points where it's like, oh yeah, pim Paris, pim Peru. Oh, thank you for bringing these tools for me, that sort of stuff. And it's, or thank you for bringing my maiden. And if I remember correctly, the reason why he did that was because the original director, I should say, of all these FromSoft games, is that he wanted to capture the feeling of how it felt to read like English epics, but in Japanese. Yeah. So like he was reading like a bunch of English epics, and he didn't understand the words. He got the overall gist of it, but because he wasn't really good at reading English at the time, he would wonder what certain things meant. So doesn't that sort of like explain how Dark Souls feels 1, and then Dark Souls 2 feels, Dark Souls 3 feels? Like you're almost getting the story, but you're not quite sure if you're getting it right.
Yeah, there's this general mystery to everything that's going on. Just a general lack of understanding. You sometimes have no fucking clue why the world is the way that it is.
Mm-hmm. Which leaves room for
you just know you have to survive.
All the speculation that has to happen, because well, it's weird and it's vague, and that's kind of how it felt to like read English stories and being a Japanese guy. So I mean, it captures it. I mean, it captures the feeling well. I only have like a marginal understanding of Dark Souls 1. Don't ask me what the fucking plot was, because all I know is like big sword dude, big scythe dude goes and chops monsters up from place to place, and no one understands is telling me why. But I did it.
Yeah, apparently there was a war between some guy named Gwyn and a bunch of fucking dragons. And then there was one dragon who has no skin, who snaked on the other dragons. And then there's this dude named Nito, who's pretty fucking metal looking. And apparently the world is ending. And I don't fucking... Yeah, I like, that's all I got too. But I still love Dark Souls. I have no fucking clue what's going on.
I don't know who I am.
To live.
I don't know why I'm there. I don't know who I am. I don't know who is here, but all I know is I have to kill.
Yeah, it's like the opening cutscene is basically saying you're going to have to kill all these motherfuckers. Because you are the chosen undead. What is a chosen undead? Fuck you. Go kill the people. It's like, that's basically what it is. But it's so compelling that but the reason it's so compelling is the gameplay.
Dude, it murks your ass.
Oh yeah.
Every fucking step.
And on top of that, it's also the visual storytelling. You look at the world around you, and you could just be like, what the fuck is going on here? And it's that mystery and that that bleakness that it conveys through the environments that really sells you on it. Whereas the but you could pull that off in video games really well, because they're an interactive medium. You know, you can garner things about the world around you just by looking at it, and by interacting with it as a player, and by exploring and things of that nature. That's also kind of why I feel like Space Marine 2, which plays a lot like Space Marine 1 but mixed with Dark Souls and Sekiro, why I feel like they don't have to do a whole lot of explaining about things, because I feel like a lot of the environment tells the story itself. And that's something that has been like a big inspiration of the Souls genre on gaming, just in general. But Elden Ring, of course, for those unaware, like this is a stupidly popular RPG. It has sold over 23 million copies since it came out. 23 million for what is effectively a AA game. It is absolutely fucking bonkers. FromSoft very rarely misses. The only game that they put out, I think, over the last decade or more, since Dark Souls 1, that I think that I didn't have fun with was Sekiro, but that's just a me thing. That's not bagging on the game. The game is actually phenomenal. I'm just not good at it. So I could never really get into it. But the way that I look at it is like I really don't know. Maybe this is just a lack of creativity on my part, but I think to myself of like, if you're going to do a fantasy film, I feel like there's an expectation from the audience on how it's going to play out. And I don't really feel like you can do that with this sort of a story, because a lot of it is just you marching through a castle killing people and trying to unfuck the world. And then you meet a wolf man who is not Guts, but kind of close. And you go and you save a blue doll lady, and she resets the world and gives everyone free will again, and that's the only ending because that's what I'm sticking to.
Fair enough.
But
Fair enough.
sorry, I like Granny the Witch. I think she's great. But that's the thing is like,
I hate what localization did to her. They
how do you
inverted her
mean?
fucking story. She's supposed to like. She's like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring the void out here, but she's keeping the void away.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It's one of those things where like you have to go deep into the lore to understand what the Elden Ring is and what it's doing to people, and that what effectively she's doing is bringing back free will and the ability to actually choose your own destiny. Because the whole thing with her is like, her future was written by the stars, and that because it's written by the stars, you have to adhere to it. And she's like, "Fuck the stars," and just like I'm like, yeah, yeah, fuck them stars, like, fuck them. But anyway, but the big thing is like, I don't really know how you would do a film unless maybe it's a prequel. Because admittedly, the one thing about the Souls genre, like Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and then Elden Ring as well, is that you're coming in to the after effects of a situation. Like the opening of just about every Souls or game in the Dark Souls series, and then also Elden Ring, there's this big ass cutscene that plays at the beginning of it to just tell you shit's fucked. If they did a movie about how shit got fucked, I could see it.
On the other hand, if they want to fall in with like the FromSoft experience of this whole vague storytelling, and you're left with absolutely more questions than you went in, that would also work better, I'd say.
Like an art house movie.
Yeah. Like you get to see a chosen undead or whatever the fuck they're called in the Elden Ring, and then doing stuff and fighting dudes, but like I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know how you would do this and can capture the same feeling. Oh, God. The speculation that you could do here.
Indeed.
I'm just not equipped for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know how they would do it, but again, if they can pull it off, it could be absolutely fucking masterful. We'll have to see who gets attached to it. Oddly enough, we were talking about Robert Eggers earlier. I feel like if Robert Eggers did an Elden Ring movie, it would probably be really good.
Weird shit happening and the whole world just like slowly but surely going to hell.
Yeah.
What is the Elden Ring to people? I don't know anything about Elden Ring. What is it doing to people in the world?
it's not quite clear, but it's kind of controlling their desires.
Yeah, their desires and their fate. It's sort of like a. It has effective, from what I understand, and I could be way off on this, because I have not looked into the lore of this series at fucking all, or even Dark Souls either. As much as I love those games, which I was actually going to say to people, for those of you out there in listening land, the remastered version of Dark Souls I really like. It is $40, and it is worth every penny. If you want to get into Souls games, or you want to try them out, worth every penny. But anyway, the basic idea is like the Elden Ring is assigning people what their fate is. You know, giving everyone predestination, taking away your free will. You are destined to do this thing and only this thing, and then you will die in a lonely grave. Whereas whoever gets control of the Elden Ring gets to decide what that is. And each ending of the game is a different way that the Elden Ring, like, you gain control of it. Or you give control away to someone else. That's the Randy the Witch ending.
She seems the most reasonable out of all of them.
Pretty much.
So yeah, it's a very strange series, but it's a really good game. Hell, like even the fucking roguelike DLC that's coming out for it looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's a roguelike battle royale.
Battle Royale.
Yeah, it's wild looking. I don't know if I'm going to get it. It doesn't really seem like my thing, but it still looks kind of neat. It looks interesting. But regardless, like if they want to do it, I mean, by all means, give it a shot. But personally, I just want more of the Soul style of games from FromSoft in the future. I want more Bloodborne, even though I haven't finished the original. I need to, but I feel like Bloodborne is probably the most like demanded of getting it like a follow up, and they haven't been able to because Sony is like sucking it up hard in that regard. But that's Sony for you. They're kind of terrible. All right. Now for something absolutely fucking silly.
I love it so much. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. It starts out dark, but it's fucking hilarious the whole way through.
Yeah, this is some internet insanity that is kind of just beyond hilarious. So, so an owner of a ramen shop in Japan has placed a bounty on the heads of 2 people who left a negative review of their restaurant.
Some straight up Yakuza bullshit. Ugh.
Yeah, so this is from Dextero.com. Despite Toyojiro, a Jiro-style ramen restaurant in Kyoto, Japan, being one of the top-rated ramen joints in the area, a group of customers left negative reviews about their food and experience. After the 1-star rating was left for future customers to see, the restaurant's owner took to social media to place a bounty on the heads of those who had publicly criticized his food. I saw your post. Yeah, it's like I saw your post. You seem a bit weird. The owner said on Instagram, "We try not to treat people like you as customers, so it's fine." Goddamn. But you should probably avoid eating out. Someday someone like you will get screwed. I don't care. Just come directly and I'll deal with you. His threat continued. We run a planned business, so if you get in our way, we'll get in the way of yours too. What the fuck? It's like he's declaring a fucking blood feud.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The Japanese don't mess around with their food, man.
Yeah. So Toyojiro owner offers 100,000 yen for information. He says the only thing he could do is come back, eat again, and write a good review with a photo. I told him I will not forgive him otherwise. Not even for the safety of his family.
Damn.
Yeah, if he does that, he'll be killed right away.
Yeah,
This kid is so scared he'll really do it, so you better just come back and eat. The owner also asked social media influencers to give him any information they had on the two men who left the negative review, offering them 100,000 yen, which is $662, fucking cheapskate, if they had useful knowledge about their whereabouts.
This is way beyond Yakuza. This is Game of Thrones type shit.
Like, this dude gets a bad review, suddenly he wants to recreate the Red Wedding. Like, what the fuck? Oh my fucking god. Like, I saw that and I'm like, what the actual hell is going on over in the land of the rising sun?
And now you're getting the absolute opposite of what he was requesting, because there's a shit ton of negative reviews now.
They're trying to save those two people. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to flood it so they can save them.
Just muddy the waters. The people of the internet have come in and just totally I am Spartacus to the joint. Oh, this is awesome. Oh my god. Oh, that's funny. Man, I'm of the opinion that this needs to be the plot of the next Golgo 13 story.
Can you please explain what Golgo 13 is?
It's a hitman.
Okay. Yeah, so Golgo 13 is a hitman who does impossible shots. That's his whole thing. If someone can, if it's even remotely possible for a bullet to reach one end of his rifle and his target, no matter the distance, no matter the odds, he will find it and he will manage it. And one of the most ridiculous ones was him shooting a target which was a football field away between two buildings that had maybe a foot distance between each of them. And bro was on foot.
How is that even possible?
It's kind of his gimmick.
It's kind of his gimmick, and just to demonstrate how fucking like ridiculous he was, the cops came, saw him there, and they couldn't arrest him because they would be laughed out of court for saying that that such a person existed that was capable of shooting a football field away between maybe a foot distance between two buildings, hitting a man on foot during it's such an absurd fucking like manga, and it's like if anybody could pull it off, I think Golgo 13 could, just based off of literally just like the smallest details from the review on the site.
Yeah.
Say like the camera information on the dude's phone, and then narrowing it down to how many people existed having that particular phone model in that area at that time, and then narrowing it down to God, so many little things that you could do just to make it like stack up the odds against Golgo 13. He's like, so this type of phone, this type of day, this person, this based on this grainy image, and then like 5 pages later, dude is just going through his life and he's trying to eat some ramen. The fucking ramen in front of him explodes because Golgo 13 shot the bowl from like I don't know, like 3 buildings away through a crack in a window. Just because he's a picky eater. Don't be a picky eater, I guess. It's such a strange little manga, and I love Golgo 13. So many things.
It's absolutely wild though, just like, you know what this also reminds me of? Have either of you watched Kitchen Nightmares?
My mom did, but I never did. But I know of it.
I've watched a couple episodes here and there.
If you ever get the chance, look up Amy's Bakery.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Amy's Baking Company. Oh, yes. Oh, goodness.
That is what this gave me flashbacks of. I'm like, that sounds like something they would do.
It is the absolute cinema of all time. Like reality TV shows. That is the absolute cinema. There is never a goddamn episode of reality TV that can top Amy's Baking Company. Okay, so for Rena's sake, so there's this company, I think it was in Nevada, named Amy's Baking Company, and the only reason why they brought your boy in was to prove to the world that Amy was capable of cooking. Unfortunately, that was not the case. And so she spent the whole episode being a fucking maniac, a fucking cluster B maniac, trying to get your boy to just say that she's a good cook when it was very obvious that she was not a very good cook, because she would like buy stuff from the local Costco and sell it as her own baking, or bring in canned ravioli and then spend like an hour and a half making pizza that was like the worst thing you've ever seen. It's absurd. Ramsay did nothing to help her because he couldn't. She was she's manic fucking depressive, and she wouldn't accept any help, and so yeah. So I would say this is actually probably a pretty good 1-to-1 for a Japanese version for your boy over there in Japan, who's willing to kill two people for the mere sum of $662. I don't know. But yeah, we're gonna force you to watch so many fucking things. So many fucking things, Rena. I swear to God.
I don't watch TV that much anymore.
To be fair, it is one episode of one thing, but it's great. It is it's something. Ugh. And this ramen shop owner is well, I don't know. Let me go.
Ramen right now.
I mean, that sounds pretty good, honestly. I'm not gonna lie.
Micah, you making us hungry. Look at this good picture. That's a delicious picture of ramen noodles.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
great like that. People
Look at
in my live stream chat call me a communist because I'm great at making people hungry.
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to see if I can find a picture of this dude. But yeah. Yeah, no, all we have is like info on like him putting information. Oh my god, he posted the faces of the dudes
Holy
Jesus
fucking shit.
on his
The
own.
dude
like,
is unhinged.
it looks like Instagram to me. And yeah, he's like, who are these fuckers? Yeah, bro's a little manic depressive. I'm not gonna lie. Probably if he's not if he isn't a retired yakuza, he probably has a cousin that's a yakuza, or a brother of some kind, or a brother. But yeah, no, it's such a strange story. It's one of the few like grim stories of the week that you can look at and laugh at. Ugh.
Mentally ill people should not be owning businesses, period.
Listen, if that was the case, I wouldn't have a job. All right.
What?
Oh goodness. But yeah, it's wow. It is one of the this is one of the goofiest things that I think I've seen on the internet in a while. And God bless it because this was very much worth the laugh. But um to the owner of the ramen shop, I'm not the West Side Data Baka. But but yeah, the uh God, that's just a lot. So, that is all we have for you guys this week. For those of you out in listening land, but I do want to thank everybody for stopping by and watching as you usually do, or listening, whichever way you're imbibing this particular podcast. Needless to say, we need to get Rena some more culture.
Culture.
So I will have to figure out what her next assignment is going to be.
It's
But
gonna be
Okay, your first assignment is be born 10 years earlier, okay?
that might be a bit difficult. Time machines haven't been invented yet.
Okay,
not with that attitude.
not with that attitude. And then you're gonna watch every movie as they release. All right, that's how it's gonna work. We'll make it
I
work.
don't have the time nor the money.
We'll figure something out.
Indeed.
Also,
All right.
being born 10 years earlier would mean that my parents had me when they were teenagers. So I don't know about that.
I'm gonna say, I mean, it still works. Well, terrible. All right,
Indeed.
I guess be born where you were born. It happens. It happens.
We shall do what we can to get you caught up.
Mm-hmm.
Broaden those horizons. All right, folks. But once again, I want to thank everybody who listened for listening. Don't forget, of course, if you enjoyed the show, share it with somebody else. Let other people know what's going on over here, and that we're having good times. So we want more people to join the fun with us. So on that note, appreciate everybody for stopping by. We will be back next week, barring anything crazy going on. So for Serena and Mike, my name is Micah Curtis, the head of Grindstone Arts. Have yourselves a great rest of your week.
Bye.